Midnight Zephyr presents this single-chapter story titled Whispers in the Mist. Your feedback helps shape the next horror. What do you want to hear next? And subscribe so you don't miss the next night of nightmares. Open with the daughter, narrator now an adult, introducing her mother's personality, practical, no nonsense, dismissive of folklore, to build credibility. Flashback to Elena packing for her trip, a tense phone call with her ex about Mia, and her drive into the Cascades. She arrives at a remote trailhead near Mount Rainier, sets up camp in a dense fir grove, and begins her fungi surveys, reflecting on her life's upheavals. I need to preface this by saying that this isn't my story, it's my mom's. And to really grasp how unsettling it all was, you have to know who she was. My mom, Elena Vargas, was the kind of person who didn't scare easy. She grew up in a noisy Seattle neighborhood, the daughter of Mexican immigrants who worked double shifts to keep the lights on. After a car crash took them when she was 10, her Aunt Rosa stepped in, raising her with stories of hard work and logic. No room for fairy tales or superstitions in that house. Mom became a botanist, diving into the science of plants like it was her anchor. She laughed off those Pacific Northwest legends, the ones about shadowy figures lurking in the old-growth forests. People see what they want to see, she'd say with that practical smile. Bears, fog, imagination, that's all it is. But something changed her in the fall of 2003. She was 32 then, fresh out of a messy divorce from my dad, who had cheated and left us scrambling. I was 7, staying with Aunt Rosa while Mom headed to the Cascade Mountains for what she called a research reset. She needed time alone to catalog rare fungi, to think about custody battles and starting over. Little did she know, those woods held more than mushrooms and moss. What happened up there shook her skepticism to the core. I'll tell it like she told me in her own words, pieced together from the journals she kept and the late-night talks we had years later. It's eerie, sure, but it's real to her. And after what I've learned since, it's real to me too. It started with the drive. The rain-slicked highway wound north from Seattle, the city's glow fading in my rearview mirror like a bad memory. I gripped the wheel of my old Subaru, the wipers swishing in rhythm with my thoughts. Divorce papers were signed, but the ache lingered. Carlos, my ex, had called that morning, his voice clipped over the phone. Mia needs stability, Elena, not your wild goose chases in the woods. I bit back a retort. He didn't get it. This trip wasn't an escape. It was survival. I'd secured a small grant to study epiphytic fungi in the Cascades, those delicate organisms clinging to ancient firs. It was work, yes, but also a chance to breathe, to decide if fighting for full custody was worth the fight. The road narrowed as I entered Mount Rainier National Park territory, though my spot was off the beaten path, a remote valley called Fog Hollow, named for the perpetual mist that hugged the ground. Locals avoided it, muttering about tricky trails and weird vibes. I dismissed that as small-town talk. I'd hiked tougher spots in college, backpack loaded with sample kits and notebooks. By midday, I pulled into a gravel lot at the trailhead. The air hit me first, crisp, pine-scented, with an undercurrent of damp earth. I shouldered my pack, heavy with tent, food rations, a digital camera, and collection tools. 2 weeks, I whispered to myself. Just me in the forest. The hike-in was 3 miles uphill through dense underbrush. Ferns brushed my legs and massive Douglas firs towered like silent sentinels. I paused to note a cluster of lobster mushrooms pushing through the leaf litter, bright orange against the green. Perfect for my study. But something felt off. A few hundred yards in, I spotted boot prints in the mud. Fresh, larger than mine. Poachers, other hikers. I shook it off. The Cascades were public land. Still, I quickened my pace. By late afternoon, I reached my campsite, a small clearing ringed by boulders with a stream gurgling nearby. I pitched my tent, staking it against the wind, and built a fire pit from river stones. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows, I sat on a log and ate a granola bar. My mind wandered to Mia, her gap-toothed grin the way she'd hugged me before bed. "Be careful, Mommy. Don't let the monsters get you." Kid stuff inspired by cartoons. I smiled, pulling out my phone. No signal, as expected. Aunt Rosa had promised to check in on Mia. She'd be fine. Night fell quick in the mountains. I zipped into my sleeping bag, the forest sounds lulling me, owls hooting, leaves rustling. But sleep was fitful. Dreams of Carlos mixed with vague unease, like eyes watching from the dark. I woke before dawn, stiff but determined. Coffee from my thermos warmed me as I geared up for the first survey. The mist was thick, swirling like smoke. I followed a faint deer path deeper into the valley, my headlamp cutting through the gloom. That's when the anomalies started. Fungi I'd expected, chanterelles, morels, but these were odd. A patch of what looked like ghost fungus, glowing faintly in the low light, arranged in a near-perfect circle. Nature didn't do symmetry like that. I knelt, snapping photos and scraping samples into vials. Wind patterns, animal interference, I muttered, jotting notes. Hours passed. The sun peeked through the canopy, warming the air. I hiked farther, crossing a fallen log bridge over the stream. On the other side, more strange growths. Lichens forming patterns that almost resembled symbols, arrows, spirals. Coincidence, I told myself. But a prickle ran down my spine. Lunch was a quick sandwich back at camp. I reviewed my photos on the camera, zooming in. One shot caught something, a blur in the background, like a tall shape amid the trees. Fog, probably. I deleted it. No need for distractions. Afternoon brought more exploration. I ventured up a ridge, the terrain steeper, rocks slick with moss. That's where I found the cabin. Tucked in a thicket, it was dilapidated. Boards warped, roof caved in parts. Curiosity won. I pushed the door, hinges creaking. Inside, dust motes danced in the light from cracked windows. An old table, a rusted stove. On the floor, a leather-bound journal, pages yellowed. I flipped it open. Entries from the 1970s. Saw it again today. Tall as two men, fur like bark. It watches, guards the hollow. Scribbles of sketches, elongated figures with piercing eyes. Forest guardian or madness? The last page. Don't take what's not yours. It knows. I chuckled, closing it. Hiker delirium, dehydration, isolation. I'd seen it in field studies. I left the cabin, but the words lingered. As evening approached, I heard the first unusual sound. A low rustle, not the scamper of squirrels. I froze on the trail, listening. Nothing. Then a branch snap. Sharp, deliberate. Bear? Elk? I scanned the trees, heart picking up. "Hello?" My voice echoed oddly. Silence. I hurried back to camp, the mist thickening. Dinner was canned soup over the fire, flames crackling. I tried to relax, reading a botany paperback by lantern light. But the feeling grew. Eyes on me. I doused the fire early, retreating to the tent. Sleep evaded me that night. Tossing in my bag, I replayed the day. The patterns, the journal, the sounds. Paranoia from the divorce. Carlos always said I overthought things. Around 2 a.m., a storm rolled in. Thunder rumbling distant, rain pattering the nylon. I dozed fitfully. Dawn broke gray and drizzly. I emerged, shaking off the unease. Today, I'd push farther, to a meadow I'd mapped. Packing fresh supplies, water, snacks, extra batteries, I set out. The trail wound through alder groves, leaves dripping. I collected more samples, noting how the fungi seemed healthier here, almost thriving unnaturally. Mid-morning, I spotted the boot prints again. Identical to yesterday's, circling back toward my camp. Anger flared. Someone was tailing me. I followed them off-path, brush snagging my jacket. They led to a overlook, a cliff dropping to the stream below. No one there. But on a rock, a note. "This hollow isn't for outsiders. Leave the plants alone." Handwritten block letters. Threat? Prank? My mind raced to Dr. Harlan Reed. We'd crossed paths at a conference last year. Arrogant with his Ivy League degree and endless grants, he'd scoffed at my research proposal, hinting I was cutting corners for funding. Was he here, sabotaging? I crumpled the note, stuffing it in my pocket. No proof, but I'd watch my back. The meadow was a mile on, wildflowers nodding in the breeze. I set up my tripod for time-lapse photos. As I worked, a shadow flitted at the edge, gone when I looked. Wind. I focused on a cluster of rare puffballs, their spores puffing like smoke. Lunch on a stump. I called Aunt Rosa on my satellite phone, the one luxury for emergencies. Signal was spotty, but it connected. Elena? Mija, you okay up there? Her voice was warm, worried. Fine, Tia, just checking on Mia. And, weird day, found some old journal about forest myths. She paused. Myths? Like the old stories your abuela told? About the guardians in the woods? I laughed. Come on, that's kid stuff. Spirits protecting secrets? I'm here for science. Be careful. Your abuela saw something once back in Mexico. A tall shadow that saved her from a landslide. She swore it was real. Coincidence. Love you. Kiss Mia for me. Hanging up, I felt a twinge. Abuela's tales, half-remembered bedtime stories, but science didn't mix with folklore. Afternoon brought rain again. I sheltered under a cedar reviewing notes. That's when I heard it. A deep, resonant hum, like wind through caves but closer. I peered through the downpour. Nothing. Then movement. A shape, tall and broad, slipping behind a trunk. My breath caught. Bear on hind legs? I grabbed my camera, zooming. The lens fogged. Wiping it, I snapped blindly. The hum stopped. Gone. Back at camp, I dried off, heart still racing. Dinner was mechanical. As dusk fell, I checked the photos. Most blurry, but one. A silhouette. Humanoid, furred. I zoomed. Pixels distorted, deleted. Imagination. The next days blurred into routine, but tension built. More prints. Missing samples from my kit. Stolen. I confronted the empty woods. Show yourself. Echoes mocked me. On day 5, I met Theo. He appeared on the trail. Ranger hat, dripping rain. Grizzled beard, kind eyes. Ma'am, you Elena Vargas? Permit checks out, but folks don't camp here long. Storms get bad. I'm fine. Seen anyone else? Boot prints around? He frowned. Loggers sometimes, or that academic type. Reed? Saw his truck at the trailhead yesterday. Harlan. Fury boiled. Thanks. Stay safe. He nodded. Watch for wildlife. Odd reports lately. Hikers hearing things. What things? Growls, shadows. Old-timers call them watchers. Harmless mostly. I rolled my eyes. Bears. Maybe. He tipped his hat, vanishing into the mist. That night storm raged. Tent shook. Lightning flashed, illuminating shapes outside. Branches or figures. I clutched my knife. Useless, really. Sleep came in fits. Dawn 6. I hiked to confront Harlan. His camp was a mile west, fancy tent and gear. He emerged, smirking. Vargas, slumming it in the boonies? Cut the crap, you following me, stealing samples? He laughed. Paranoid? Your work's amateur? Faking data for grants? I reported you. Lies. Prove it. Thunder rumbled. Rain poured. He invited me in. Reluctant truce. Over coffee, he confessed. Fine. I've been taking plants. Black market pays well. Shock. You're poaching? For science, funding's tight. A twist. Alliance. Help me finish my survey. We split credit. He agreed, wary, but the storm trapped us. Hours passed, sharing stories. He mentioned lost hikers. One vanished last year, left a note about the guardian. Echoes of the journal. Phone rang. Aunt Rosa. Elena, Mia's fine, but I remembered more about Abuela. She found a talisman after her sighting. Wooden, carved, said it protected family secrets. Chills. What secrets? Your father, he didn't die in that crash. He left, joined some group, protecting nature. Impossible. Dad dead since I was 5. Or was he? Storm eased. I returned to camp, mind reeling. Day 7. Dawn survey. Mist heavy. I collected near the stream, vials filling. Snap, branch breaking. Loud, close. I spun, nothing. Then, explosion of movement. From the trees burst a massive form, 8 feet tall, body covered in mottled gray-green fur like living moss. It ran upright, limbs powerful. Not bear. Not human. Eyes, intelligent, piercing, met mine. Frozen, I watched it lunge for my backpack left on a rock. It grabbed it effortlessly, supplies spilling but ignored. A guttural rumble escaped its throat, not scream, but warning. Shivers racked me. It vanished up the ridge, fast as wind. I stood, breath ragged. Hallucination? No. Tracks, huge, foot-like, led away. I followed briefly, finding something dropped. A wooden talisman, carved with spirals and eyes, like Abuela's story. Panic hit. It knew my spot. Watched me sleep? I packed essentials, leaving the rest. Down the trail, legs burning. Back to Subaru, I drove out, heart pounding. At a motel, I called Aunt Rosa. Tia, the talisman, I found one. Silence. Mija, come home, your father's alive, he sent me letters. He's in those woods guarding against developers, using disguises to scare people away. Revelation crashed. Eco group, creature a costume. But the eyes, real. Years passed. I reconciled with Carlos, focused on Mia. Botany career boomed. Then at a conference, a stranger, older trucker type, shared a beer. We chatted Cascades. Saw something there once, he said. Hairy giant stole my gear, screamed like hell. Echoes. No prompt from me. Later, Uncle Theo called. Wait, he became like family. TV crews here. Mystery hunters filming in Fog Hollow, looking for your watcher. Hope and dread mixed. Exposure or danger? I drove back, talisman in pocket. At the trailhead, mist swirled. A shape in the rear view, tall, watching. It whispered, faint. The Hollow's secret must stay buried, or everything falls. What threat loomed? Developers or something deeper?